Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Tiffany Shepherd here. I am the admissions coordinator here at Loma, and myself, Miss Amy, and Miss Kendall are bringing to you a series of back to school kind of informational seminars that you can refer to. Consider it like a podcast. So I am the third in the lineup, and I'm going to be talking to you today about Montessori expectations, just all of the things that you can expect being a Montessori parent, being having your child enrolled in a Montessori program, and kind of some helpful tips and tricks just to keep in the back of your mind when you're managing your daily ins and outs of, parenting. So we're going to get started here. Here we go. So I have four topics that I'm going to try to cover for you today. The first one is going to be kind of discussing our purpose. What do we do? Why do we do it? And how do we do it? The second part that I'm going to discuss is, what does your child do at school all day long? A lot of parents have a lot of questions, just about the daily ins and outs and what is it exactly that your child is working on. And then the third section is going to be the parent perspective versus the teacher's perspective. A lot of times they can be the same, and often they can be very, very different. So I'm hoping to provide some clarity on exactly, the teacher's perspective of things and how you can meet in the middle as far as what your expectations are as a parent. And then the last topic that I'm going to cover is, making that home to school connection. It's very important, especially for children the age 0 to 5, just having as much consistency in their life as possible. So we really like to talk about what is it that you can be doing at home, or what are you seeing at home versus what we're seeing at school, and just how we can bridge that gap for you. All right, so let's get started. First area is our purpose. So in the Montessori world, us teachers look at the children, in what's called the whole child. Um, Traditionally, academics is at the top of the list for most parents when they consider school. However, but the Montessori environment is also considered the children's house, meaning that it encompasses everything about that child's life, from daily living skills to fostering independence, to helping them learn how to eat, to sleep, to self-soothe, all of those very basic life skills, starting from small in the Nido room, all the way through the rest of their time at our school through the primary program. So we definitely pay attention to the social and emotional part of their development. And I broke it down here into four little bullet points. So let's start there. The first area that we think of is we follow the child. We set up the environment so that it is right for observing each child independently. We want to look for cues that they're showing us, the areas that they need help working on. It's a safe space for them to make mistakes. Making mistakes is how we learn as humans, really getting involved with our hands and trial and error. So we allow space for that in the classroom. Also, we offer a variety of familiar yet explorative and repetitious activities for the child to do, starting from very young, from infancy. When they come into the environment, they are being presented with things that are on their plane of development, they are age appropriate, and we allow them for time to do those same activities over and over again. Because what we learned is that practice leads to mastery, not perfection, because no one is perfect, and that is not an expectation that we hold for our students. So we look for them to be able to repeat activities to master skills that aid them in their daily life. We also provide social and emotional development support and guidance through a process of role modeling and demonstrating age appropriate conflict resolution techniques. And what that looks like is practicing giving each child the words when they're having a conflict with their friend, if they're having a disagreement, acknowledging their emotions. Um, I see that you're sad. How can we work better to fix the problem? And really walking them through step by step of whatever emotional situation or social engagement that they're in. Teaching these skills at this age level really sets them up for having a successful adult life. So we start at this age because it's very important to kind of set the foundation for all of the more complicated emotional and social situations that will come as they get older and become adults. And then mostly our purpose is just to partner with our families. We are a resource in our community. There are experts in everything, right? And we kind of consider ourselves experts in children. And so we hope that you find the information that we provide for you guys and the daily talks that we have and seeing you come in and doing arrivals and drop offs, just to be that person you can lean on when you're presented with something that's new for you and your family, or maybe you have some questions about why your child is doing this or certain things. So being that resource for our community is really one of the most important purposes for us at Loma. And we hope that you guys feel that we have been doing that for you. Okay, slide number 2. What does my child do all day? So, really, what I've done is broken this down into 4 main areas that you'll come to understand as a whole as I describe kind of what they are. Um, I am trained in primary area, that's age 3 to 6. However, we cover starting from 3 months old, which is infancy, and we call it the nido in Montessori. So I'm going to kind of give you a snapshot of what those things mean um, pertaining to each age group as well. First, we're going to look into what is work. Then we're going to dive into routines, navigating the classroom, and general activities. Let's take a closer look. So, what is work? You'll hear us teachers and staff saying, "Oh, your child did great work today." And sometimes it seems silly for an adult to think of a child's activities or toys or things that they do on a daily basis as work. But, we want to respect everything that your child is doing in the classroom. And so, therefore, we consider it work. Everything that your child is doing, the materials in the room, they have been introduced to the environment with the child's development being kept in mind. Everything that is put in the environment is purposeful. It has an indirect and a very direct purpose. And so treating the materials, it may be considered a toy or a puzzle, but we call it a material or work because we want the child to respect it as such, as well as the adults in the room. How each child navigates the classroom is very much dependent on their plane of development and where they are. Each day, students are completing tasks that are specific to their plane of development. To help them be successful in the classroom, they have to reach an understanding of how to function within the confines of the room, the structure of the room, whether it be the rules, the boundaries that have been set in place, or just the daily routines. So, what that looks like, especially for the toddler and the primary age group children, is just completing simple tasks like being able to unroll and roll their work rug, being able to push in a chair at a table when they're done. How do they clean up their work and put it back on the shelf when they're finished? Are they able to sit for group time and circle time and raise their hand when they want to when they want to speak? And just a multitude of tasks that the children do throughout the day that helps them be able to function in group care. The routines are super, super important to a child, a very young child. Obviously, children cannot tell time. So they depend on predictability. They depend on patterns for them to feel stable and to have that sense of safety and security. So being consistent is key. We do the same daily routines every day. And what that looks like is coming in the morning, changing into their indoor shoes, washing their hands, then being offered breakfast. All of those things are a part of the work cycle. The work cycle is that socialization time. It's the time where they're going to get independent lessons from the teacher. It's a time where they're going to do those activities over and over again until they get what they need from them. Learning to line up and being able to walk quietly from the classroom to the playground or from the playground back to the classroom. Just learning how to have that body awareness and spatial recognition, being able to be careful not to step on their friend in front of them. It's a long list of tasks and put in sequential order at times that the children are learning to do that creates their routine, especially lunch and nap time and learning how to toilet independently. So, all of those things coming together create the routine in the day. They are all done at a specific time. And even for the babies, we notice that when it gets closer to lunchtime, there comes that beautiful symphony of hungry little babies. They start to cry. Why? Because they don't have the words, and that's their way of communicating that they're hungry. So, looking across the scope at all of the children in our program, having that routine in place for them really creates stability. And so having those same sorts of routines for your home would prove to be very beneficial as well. Last area that we're going to talk about on this slide is what are the general activities that my child is engaging in on a daily basis? One of the main areas across all of the age groups is practical life. Practical life looks like pouring, scooping, folding, polishing. Yes, in the primary environment and the CC, we have polishing, brass polishing, metal polishing, sometimes even glass polish, mirror polishing, shoe polishing. We have washing, different types of washing, table washing, dish washing, window washing, all of these things that sound like chores. Even transferring items with liquid with tongs or basters, sponges, and spoons, we're really giving the children an opportunity to experience how to pour things just so, how to scoop it just this way. If I polish it good enough, oh, look how beautiful it becomes. So they sound like chores, but these are really developing those life skills that they're developing that fine and gross motor skills, developing concentration. Are you able to sit and attend? Can you follow multi step directions? So, these are all the things that these activities are allowing and creating opportunities for the children. Then we look into language activities. We have a myriad of vocabulary activities that we do with the children, whether it's during circle time, singing songs or reading books. We're actually teaching language through phonetics as they get older, just not doing baby talk, actually using correct English and speaking other languages around the children. And then they also spend their days doing things like categorizing, sorting, counting, using dressing frames, puzzles, bead stringing. The list can go on and on and on. We have hundreds of activities that can be available for your children to engage in. And depending on where they are, that becomes the job of the lead teacher to direct them to those activities. So I hope that that kind of provided kind of a snapshot scope of what your child is doing during the day at school. It is a lot of work and it takes a lot of effort and brain power from them to hold it all together while they're at school for those hours during the day. So let's talk about how it all works. A lot of parents want to know, how are you staying on top of what my child or any child is doing when you have possibly up to 15 or 20 kids in a classroom? How is it that you're creating independence and being able to focus on, this child or that child? Well, let's break it down. In the Montessori classroom, we do mixed age groups. This is one of the cornerstones of Montessori. It has many purposes, but one of the main purposes is to offer that organic learning experience. We know that we learn better from our peers than necessarily someone who is an authoritative figure over you. So maybe consider the fact that we have 3 year olds and we have 2 year olds in the same classroom, in the toddler classroom, because they are able to learn from the skills that they have gained and teach the other students. Same in the primary and same in NITO. NITO goes from 3 months to 16 months. CC, the children's community, goes from 16 months to 3 years. And then finally, our primary program goes from 3 years to 6 years. So allowing those different age groups allows a real life in time role model at different stages of development. And the children are always watching, they're always absorbing what's happening around them. So, therefore, they're able to learn from each other as well as from the guides in the classroom. The prepared environment. The environment is specifically and intentionally prepared for each age group. We put things in the classroom. We are very intentional about what we expose the children to, even down to trying out the works before we put it on the shelves. Um, we take very special care to make sure that the room is prepared for the students. And then finally, we record keep. We do get pretty good at keeping in our mind what each child is doing, but each teacher is record keeping so that she knows and is able to present to you at the parent teacher conferences exactly what your child has been doing and where they are developmentally and socially. All right. So, another great area to kind of talk about is the parent perspective versus the teacher perspective. So let's talk about the signs of a successful day. The Montessori guides spend their day slowing down time for each student. We allow time to develop their independent needs, from things like fine or gross motor to learning how to self soothe, patience, using their words, self care, toileting, and then just an overall awareness of how to manage themselves in group care. A lot of times there can be confusion between, what your child is saying to you or what you're noticing, what you may see in a snapshot of something on ProCare, or, just maybe just a lack of information. So I gave some examples here, kind of a fun little game to play, as, what the parent's perspective might be when you're presenting something to your child's teacher, and then how your teacher is actually thinking about it, or what your teacher's rationale is behind those situations. So I hope this can provide some clarity. A lot of these things, when they come up, can be solved with a simple, quick phone conversation or a quick message on ProCare, but I thought it would be interesting to break it down for you guys. So, by age group, I just did one example for each age group. So, the first one says Johnny spends too much time on the floor. And this would be the parent's perspective of, the infant room. When you look in our infant room, we don't have a lot of, baby contraptions, what I like to call them. We don't have a lot of things that we put the children in that's going to limit their movement. At that young age, it is vital that they are, engaging in the physiological part of their development. So, something that the teacher might say in response to that is, Johnny has taught himself how to roll over and is starting to sit up on his own. That teacher has been there with your child on the floor with them, watching them, helping them work through the little moments where it may be uncomfortable, but they're learning how to develop those muscles in their body. And it's very vital that we don't impede that by restricting their movements. Now, we are very much there with your children. We're by their side, we're watching them, we're comforting them, we're singing to them. But they do learn to pull themselves up and roll over and start to walk. They're creating, that they're hitting all of these milestones in their growth in such a short amount of time. So they really need to be offered the opportunity to develop. So the second example that I list here is, Beth always comes home with dirty clothes, especially from lunchtime. Why aren't you using bibs to protect their clothing? Or why would you allow their clothing to get dirty with tomato soup, for example? So, what we look at when we look at children is what is the need that needs to be met, and how can we help them meet that need? And one of those needs are transitioning from everything being adult initiated to the child starting to learn how to take care of themselves a little more. And what that looks like at mealtime is offering them an open cup, offering them a fork and a spoon, showing them how to load up the spoon or the fork and to put the food in their mouth properly, showing them how to drink from the open cup. If we do things to prevent parts of that experience just for the sake of laundry or for the sake of staying clean, it kind of defeats the purpose of that independence. We want the child to experience what happens when the food doesn't go in their mouths while using the utensil. It kind of facilitates naturally, the proper way to eat. If I don't eat, it spills on me. Oh, and I feel it. I don't like how that feels. I'm going to go ahead and try to make sure that I get the food in my mouth. So it's meant to be an intuitive experience for the child. And then our last example is one that's more geared towards a primary age group, that 3 to 6 age group. And it says, Liam is doing dishwashing every day. Like, why does my child always do chores at school? Um, and so, what a teacher would probably say to that is, Liam has worked very hard to be able to complete this multi-stepped activity. And so that you guys are aware, dishwashing is probably like a 20-step activity. And learning how to complete it from beginning to end can at times take months. These are activities that it requires physical skill, being able to hold a bucket of water. It requires being able to keep the water in the table. It requires, knowing where to get all of the supplies that you need. So, being able to accomplish those things will aid in the child's growth for concentration and multitasking and being able to meet, his sensitive period for working with water. A lot of children experience sensitive periods, and one of them is order, especially in toddlers. Another one is water. They want to work with water. And so, what we do at school, instead of directing them away from those things because they might make a mess, we encourage them to use those materials or engage with those things in a way within set boundaries. And so, what that does is create that independence again. Okay, so lastly, a lot of parents want to know, what is it that you can do at home? You're going to work every day. Some of you are working from home now. And then when you get home, it seems like there's just never enough time. So, what I would like to invite you to do is take a deep breath, relax, and know that you are doing the best that you can, and everything is going to be just fine. Sometimes it's okay to just be with your children instead of trying to tick off a checklist of all the things that you need to get done. Children just want to spend time with you. They just want to know that they're in a safe environment. And so, what I have for you here are some tips and tricks of things that you should be or could be focusing on at home. So, the first one is allowing time and space for your children to accomplish age appropriate tasks and independence. Um, Children just want to be a part of the family. They don't want to be excluded or feel like they can't do things. And so, to avoid that that luminous battle of the wills, it's important to try to include things in your daily routine at home that the children can happily and successfully participate in. Things that sound like chores, but on a child's level. For instance, having a little spray bottle and letting them clean up the table after dinner, letting them set the table for dinner, watering the plants, helping feed the pets. The list can go on and on and on. These are all activities that your children are being exposed to and are doing on a daily basis at home, at school. So if you are able to create a space in your home where they know where to go get a little dustpan and they can clean up their snack when they spill it, or they know where a rag is when they can clean up their milk if they spill that at home, or having organization for their toys and not too many so that it's not overwhelming for them. Having it set up so that they know exactly where all their Legos go. They know exactly where all of their dolls go. They know exactly how to contribute to cleaning up what they've messed up. So a lot of times that will mitigate, that control that children seek. They can only control eating, sleeping, and toileting, right? So we want to try to offer them as many tasks as possible that is safe for them, but also that doesn't prohibit them from developing that independence. The second thing we tell parents to do is have fun. Go exploring. Do all the things that we wish that we could do with your beautiful little souls. We wish we could take them to the museums and libraries and experience, all these beautiful parks in the area. Go and do all of those things. We at school bring the world to the children, which means we're going to be exposing them to things as they naturally happen in the calendar, right? But you at home have the opportunity, the space, and the transportation to take them to all these beautiful places to really get them just immersed in other experiences in the world. That is one of the best things that you guys can do with your children at home. Another area is academics. Of course, in this day and age, everybody wants their child to be a doctor. Everybody wants their child to be a scientist, or, all of these big names, these jobs with big titles. And we're always thinking about the future. But I would charge you to think about now. Slow down and think about who your child is now. And are they doing the things that they need to be doing? Are they are they able to pull up their pants on their own? Are they able to express themselves with their words? Are they able to self-soothe and express to you when they're sad? Those are the sort of things that we're looking for in the children. And so keeping it light at home with the academics. All of the things that I've been talking to you about throughout this Zoom are really heavy work for a child. It's a lot of brain work, it's a lot of physical work. And so when they get home, they just want to enjoy family time with you. Don't worry, everybody learns how to read, everybody learns how to count. And yes, some children have learning differences, but we encourage you to make learning fun at home. Leave the heavy lifting to us. We're going to teach them the phonetics. We're going to teach them the counting. We're going to expose them to geography and science and math and all of those very important things, and handwriting as well. But while you're at home with them, spend time reading books, picture books, books with words, books with no words. Let them see you reading as adults as well, so that they understand that you can have a love for reading. It piques their curiosity about books. Make vocabulary games when you're at the grocery store. How many things do we have in our basket that start with a? Make a counting game out of anything that you have in your house. Learning should be fun when it's in a shared space with mom and dad. Until later, when they're 5, 6, 7, if you start to notice some things that may seem abnormal, that would be the time to consider consulting with your child's teacher if there was something else that needed to be done. But for all other things, let's enjoy the ride up until they reach elementary school and allow them to just be. Lastly, I would like to invite you to think about conversations with your children in an open ended way. And what that means is before swooping in and doing like the automation, like, okay, I got it, I'll fix it, I'll do it, and just taking care of every little thing for your child, start to pause and take a moment and kind of redirect that question or that thing that your child is nagging you for, asking you for. Put it back on them. And I'll give you some examples. Mommy, I'm thirsty. Mommy, I want milk. Daddy, I want juice. An appropriate response would be, okay, I hear you. Where can you get a cup? Would you like me to help you get some juice? Putting everything back on the child. Mommy, I want to look at my book. Mommy or daddy, I want my toy. Okay, where can you find it? Where did you have it before? Do you remember where it goes? If you start to pose those open ended questions to your child, it helps them develop that, that thinking that we want them to have, that cognitive train of thought, so that they can go back and start to seek out things on their own. It's a very important tip and trick that we use at school all day long, being that the classroom is set up for them to be successful. So we do use that, and we encourage parents to use that at home as well. All right, folks, I have ended here with a quote, and it says, "The greatest gift that we can give our children are the roots of responsibility and the wings of independence." And of course, that is a beautiful quote by Dr. Maria Montessori herself. And lastly, I'd just like to say thank you. I hope that you guys have found this little Zoom a little bit informational. I hope that you've left with some tips and tricks on kind of how to make that home to school connection. And of course, if you have any questions about anything that I've discussed here today, I would be happy to talk to you about it. All right, take care and thanks for tuning in.